Sodom and Gomorrah are two ancient cities that were consumed by raging fire flying down from the sky, according to the Bible. For as long as history has lasted, many people used to think that this story is just a myth, a fictional one at best, that has no place in reality. But do you know that the latest scientific findings point to the fact that this story is much more than a myth? Beyond that, biblical narration talks about them as cities steeped in wickedness and immorality. This is the reason why their destruction was a severe warning about the consequences of turning away from doing right. But at what time did this destruction by fire take place? And how can we draw insightful lessons from this? Before we begin, be sure to like the video and subscribe so that you never miss a video from us. As we begin our exploration of the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, it is essential to acknowledge the enormous amount of work that archaeologists have put into this search throughout the years. Historians, theologians, and explorers have all been thrilled by the revelations surrounding these towns, which has led many to surmise that they were situated near the Dead Sea, an area rich in both mystery and history. Researchers are particularly interested in the Dead Sea region because of its relevance in ancient writings and distinctive geological characteristics. According to some experts, these historical cities may be buried at the southernmost point of the Dead Sea. Looking further, they've discovered evidence of fire and damage at Bab Edra, a prominent location in this region. Further research, however, cast doubt on the relationship this region has with Sodom or Gomorrah, as it had been abandoned long before Abraham's time. This discovery was disappointing, but also enlightening, since it meant that there was still more work to be done in discovering these cities. So, what next steps did they take? The search went on, leading archaeologists on a voyage that was equally optimistic and pessimistic. Every excavation site constituted a fresh chapter in the unfolding story of Sodom and Gomorrah. As they dug through layers of soil, they carefully examined broken pottery, building sites, and other relics that would support or refute the existence of these ancient towns. As some of us are aware, excavation is a laborious operation that is similar to assembling a massive manufacturing plant in which every piece has the potential to reveal new information about the past. In the field, the joy of discovering something is tangible as each discovery raises a series of intriguing questions, such as, could this pottery be the property of the Sodomites? Or what stories about their everyday existence, way of life, and ultimate destiny can these objects reveal? Since modern changes pose a threat to the very places archaeologists are working to investigate, researchers frequently find themselves in a race against time. So, the search for these cities has extended beyond merely verifying a biblical account to something else. Understanding the ancient world, its cultures, and the complex web of human relationships that built civilizations, and this has grown into a larger task. There have been difficulties in the research. The hostile desert environment, which may reach extremely high temperatures, and the region's complicated political structure provides several challenges for archaeologists. The tense environment around the Dead Sea and potential restrictions on access to particular locations make researchers' jobs more difficult. Despite these obstacles, their perseverance has produced important discoveries that have the potential to change our perception of biblical history. For instance, the identification of prehistoric trade routes and habitation patterns in the area has given the biblical story an important context. Our understanding of the social and economic dynamics of the era helps us to understand better why these cities failed and why they may have prospered in the first place. Let's now focus on specific geographical and scriptural hints that might lead us to the whereabouts of these mythical towns. The Bible describes a northern location for Sodom, especially in the area surrounding the Jordan Valley, which is close to the northern edge of the Dead Sea. According to Genesis, this region is lush and well watered, making it ideal for cultivation and habitation. This is consistent with the story of Lot, who settled on the verdant plains because he thought it would be a place of plenty. Is it possible that the Bible's description of the prosperous region holds the key to locating Sodom and Gomorrah? Very soon, we shall see how these hints could take us to the truth as we continue our exploration. Ancient civilizations were drawn to the Jordan Valley because of its potential for abundant agriculture. The wealth of the area is emphasized in the biblical story, which would have been essential for commerce and food. This link between the biblical story and geography offers a strong starting point for our investigation. Old books and maps from other cultures can also provide information about where these towns are located. Researchers can assemble a more complete picture of the ancient landscape by comparing these historical records with archaeological discoveries. Not only are ruins to be found in the hunt for Sodom and Gomorrah, but legends that molded human society must also be found. Let's now head to Tel El Hammam, a sizable Jordan Valley archaeological site. According to archaeologist Stephen Collins, this site is an excellent bet to be the location of Sodom. These excavations have uncovered fascinating evidence. The site exhibits evidence of abrupt fire damage in 1600 BC, which is precisely when Abraham lived. The finding of human remains in strange settings around this region is even more fascinating. Halfway up the body, some skeletons were discovered charred, suggesting a tremendous heat explosion from above. This suggests a disastrous occurrence, somewhat like a meteor explosion. Imagine a meteor burst in the atmosphere that was similar to the 1908 Tunguska disaster in Siberia, which resulted in extensive devastation. Could this be the secret to understanding the flaming destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? Numerous details concerning the everyday life of the people who lived there have also been unearthed by the excavations at Tel El Hammam. Among the artifacts that shed light on the way of life and culture of the area's previous residents are pottery, tools, and food scraps. Knowing the possible way of life of the Sodomites gives their story more depth as we reflect on the things that they lost in that terrible incident. Furthermore, hints of the city's importance in antiquity may be seen in its layout. Due to its advantageous location close to trade routes, Tel El Hammam was a hive of activity for both trade and interaction. Because of its importance, its destruction would have had a greater overall impact on the area and beyond. Further research into Tel El Hammam strengthens the case for cataclysmic destruction. The site shows evidence of intense heat and sudden destruction. Archaeologists discovered melted pottery, burned foundations, and even glass from the desert, all of which pointed to exposure to temperatures higher than 6,000 centigrade. One of the most intriguing finds in the city was a destruction layer. This layer revealed the location of an abrupt, catastrophic event that drastically changed the soil terrain. Partially glazed pottery, which usually happens at very high temperatures, was discovered at the location. Researchers recognized this glazing as trinitite, a substance created when sand is subjected to extreme heat, similar to that of an atomic bomb. So could it be that an airburst from a meteor similar to the one that happened at Tunguska destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah? The nature of the incident is also a subject of fascinating issues raised by the findings at Tel El Hammam. Was it just a natural calamity? Or was there more to it than that? The speed of the destruction itself points to the presence of a strong force that would have permanently altered the people's collective memory of what happened. Moreover, The evidence from the archaeology suggests that the city was evacuated quickly. The fact that artifacts were abandoned suggests that the occupants had little time to flee. This gives the story a more personal touch by reminding us that actual people who endured unthinkable conditions might have lived beneath the ruins. Let's now make the connections between the biblical story and these archaeological discoveries. According to Genesis 19, the towns of Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed by fire and brimstone that descended from heaven, and the physical evidence found by archaeologists fits this description quite well. The biblical account is consistent with the devastation layer, extreme heat, and the order in which the destruction happened, indicating that Sodom and Gomorrah were actual cities that underwent a cataclysmic disaster. It's as though the old stories have been handed down through the ages, emphasizing a careful historical transmission of what actually occurred. Furthermore, the devastation fits precisely into Abraham's historical period, lending credence to the theory that this event was not only a myth, but a noteworthy, actual event. As the evidence is put together, the destiny of Sodom and Gomorrah becomes more apparent. The biblical story, which highlights the town's moral decline, provides an additional layer of knowledge. The story serves as a warning about what happens when one turns away from good. When considered through this lens, the archaeological evidence indicates that the devastation was a period in human history with moral ramifications rather than just a natural calamity. In addition, the story of Sodom and Gomorrah has shaped theological and cultural viewpoints for innumerable centuries. The morality, justice, and divine intervention aspects in the story are still relevant today and are significant to the value of leading virtuous lives. Let's now look at why these cities were so significant. Not only were Sodom and Gomorrah tiny villages, but they were also strong cities situated along a significant commerce route. Their sudden annihilation would have permanently impacted the surrounding areas. The incident is mentioned frequently throughout the Bible, from Genesis to the prophets, and we can see that throughout time the story reminds us of the value of morality and the risk of deviating from it. It has also been incorporated into literature, art, and cinema, further influencing popular culture. It is frequently brought up in talks about current concerns and acts as a point of reference for morality and ethics discussions. Because Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction continues to influence how we see good and wrong, the story is both timeless and contemporary. Furthermore, the archaeological discoveries at Tel el-Hammam advance our knowledge of prehistoric urban life. They make the intricacies of everyday routines, trade networks, and social institutions visible. By examining these facets, we may learn more about the larger background of human civilization and the elements that influence the success or failure of societies. From what has been discussed so far, the biblical story is supported by scientific data, which shows that historical events that were previously believed to be only fiction can have a basis in actuality. The results at Tel el-Hammam indicate that Sodom and Gomorrah were actual locations that underwent a terrible catastrophe, since they match the biblical story incredibly well. In keeping with the biblical story, natural occurrences like meteor impacts might also be viewed as tools of divine intervention. Hence, let us remember that history is frequently more complex than it appears, and that sometimes the real world is weirder than fiction. The story of Sodom and Gomorrah warns us to be watchful about our moral decisions and to consider how our deeds may affect future generations. It inspires us to consider the lessons learned from the past and how they could apply to our current and future circumstances. As this video draws to an end, let's remember that the pursuit of truth is not over. New discoveries in science and archaeology test our understanding of history every day, and we can only imagine what more mysteries lie in wait for us from the ancient world. Before you go, drop any questions or suggestions in the comments section below, and do well to like, subscribe, and share this video with others, as this will go a long way to ensuring that the truth is not lost. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.